Hey guys, today I'll show you a fantasy horror TV series named Siren Season 3. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama begins on a plane high up in the sky, where the captain noticed the name of a flight attendant that wasn't on the crew list. When the woman realized her identity had been exposed, she went straight to the cockpit and sent the captain away. She then marched to the pilot's seat and, after a flurry of skilled maneuvers, redirected the plane and descended through the clouds. The sudden drop shook the aircraft, causing passengers to panic, quickly donning their oxygen masks and fastening their seatbelts. Amidst their terrified stares, the woman calmly shouldered her backpack, opened the plane's door, and jumped out. The plane then nosedived into the ocean and exploded on impact. Not long after, the mysterious woman plunged into the sea, attempting to release the parachute strapped to her back. Unexpectedly, her body began to mutate, and in no time, she transformed into a mermaid. After glancing at the wreckage around her, she turned and swam into the deep sea without traces of her hormones. The scene shifts the town of Bristol, famed for its mermaid legends. Rin has already settled here, seamlessly integrating into human life. She collects pearls from seashells to exchange for money. Passing by a nail salon, she looks quite pretty after getting her nails done. She shops for groceries at the market and goes home to practice cooking, looking every bit the human. Seeing her so passionately engaged, Ben and his girlfriend Maddie can't bear to dampen her enthusiasm and tearfully eat the feast Rin has prepared with care. At that moment, the mysterious woman transformed into a human shape arrives at the Marine Research Institute. Intentionally bumping into a female officer, she steals her work badge. She then turns around, uses it to bypass security and gains entry. Casually flashing the badge to the guard, who suspects nothing, she enters the institute. She seems familiar with the place and heads straight for her target. However, she finds only an empty fish tank. Whatever she was searching for, it appears she was a step too late. The woman follows a scent to Helen's general store. Rin immediately senses hostility and becomes alert. It turns out, this mysterious woman is a chieftain from another sea tribe, but after being injured in a battle with the sea monster Gargantua, her people abandoned her and chose another leader. She was then captured by a survey ship and detained by the Russian government for 10 years. She named herself Tia after a powerful, vengeful sea deity. Despite suffering, Tia also mastered a plethora of human knowledge. Fluent in 7 languages, she is well-versed in scientific engineering, craftsmanship, human history, and combat. Trained to be a warrior, Tia learned through a serendipitous intelligence leak that the U.S. military was detaining another mermaid. She escaped with the purpose of convincing Rin to help her rally all mermaid tribes for a war against humankind. Later, Rin confided in Tia about her sister, who, following her during a hunt, was accidentally captured by a fisherman's net. That's why she ventured onto land, in search of her sister, who was ultimately incarcerated by humans in a lab and killed. They saw a car, and Tia found it unlocked by chance, so she slid inside, rolled down the window, and rummaged around. She found a wrench and started the car, urging Rin to flee with her. Tia took Rin to the seaside, criticizing humans for polluting the oceans, an act merfolk would never commit. Tia held the belief that mermaids were the most advanced species on the planet, wiser, more adaptable, and stronger. Their purpose was to protect Earth, a duty they deemed humans unworthy of. Rin did not protest. Tia's plan was to return to her tribe, reclaim her position as leader, and then unite with Rin and all mermaid tribes to wage war on humanity to restore the Earth's balance. Rin was tempted, but she neither consented nor rejected the idea. Meanwhile, a Marine research commander approached Ben's parents with a suggestion to increase the dosage of their ongoing treatment. The first 2 stem cell applications had successfully restored sensation in Ben's mother's legs. Eagerly, his parents awaited this development. The commander disclosed that although the first batch had been depleted, they had obtained a new source, surely not another captured mermaid. In reality, the military had exhumed the bodies buried on the island in human form, including Rin's sister, who had been deceased for several months. Ben, reluctant to cause his mother further disappointment and desiring her recovery, sought out the Marine Research Institute to propose a partnership with the commander. However, the commander, still bitter over the previous incident where Ben had stolen Rin's embryo from the lab, had become more confrontational and was intent on obtaining Rin as a live specimen. Elsewhere, Xander was still on the lookout for his missing girlfriend. Since Ben had returned with the recording of a mermaid's song from the deep sea, the military agent Nicole had disappeared. The sheriff speculated that her disappearance was orchestrated by the military, making it seem as though Nicole had never existed, leaving no trace to be found. At this point, Rin took Tia back to Helen's house. Ben asked Tia how she had come to know that Rin was in this area. Tia said it was a woman inside the military who told her. This made them think of Nicole, who had just disappeared. They couldn't help but wonder if it was another military conspiracy. At that moment, Ben received an invitation message from Xander. Before leaving, Ben warned Rin to be wary of the commander and told her not to agree to any of his requests. But Rin felt that the commander had helped Ben's mother and wondered if it was ungrateful to refuse. Agitated, Ben revealed the commander's actions of extracting stem cells from her sister's body. Overhearing this, Tia took it to heart, saying that Rin's sister should have been buried at sea, not dismembered in a lab. She suggested they should do something about it. Tia then fixed her attention on Ben's mobile phone. She had seen the invitation message from Xander. The Marine Research Commander was pleased at the moment, unaware that he would soon meet the trouble. As soon as he got into the car, he received a message from Ben, asking to meet. In the evening, as per the arrangement, he arrived at the meeting place. Meanwhile, Ben was at the bar, attending Xander's invitation. It turned out to be a surprise organized by Xander's friend for his girlfriend, gathering everyone there. At the moment, everyone was immersed in the joyous laughter of the party. Ben, who was supposed to meet the commander, was actually at the bar attending the friend's party. Elsewhere, as the commander turned to leave, he heard a disturbance on the water behind him. He walked back a few steps and crouched down to look, but saw nothing. Yet danger was closing in on him. The commander was a tough man. He didn't seem afraid at all and wanted to get a clearer look at the adversary, only to be mercilessly impaled through the chest by a mermaid's tail. Undoubtedly, this was Tia's way of retaliating to win over Rin. On the other side, perhaps due to intense longing, Helen frequently thought she saw the deceased bearded mermaid standing in the corner watching her. But when she turned on the light, he disappeared without traces of his fishy hormones. Merfolk believe that after death, they continue to exist in every corner in another form. Therefore, Helen wanted to use a soul-summoning method to see her dead lover. That night, she heard a voice calling her. She followed the sound to the sea and jumped in, swimming after the voice that called her. Finally, she saw her longed-for lover, as handsome as ever. They shared their longing for each other. Suddenly, the bearded mermaid pulled back his hand and made a gesture as if trying to warn her of something. But Helen didn't understand the mermaid's sign language. He repeated the gesture and then disappeared before her, as if he was trying to convey some messages. The next day, as usual, Rin brought pearls to exchange for money, but suddenly felt a strange sensation, as if her belly had been kicked. It turned out that her baby was in trouble. Mermaids have a heart-to-heart connection with their offspring. This group, like Helen, is a hybrid of merfolk and humans who revere pure mermaids like deities. Rin and her tribespeople in the mermaid breeding season had not conceived and were anxious to cooperate with the military, using in vitro fertilization to create embryos. But Ben didn't trust the military and stole the in vitro embryos, planning to try the hybrid's traditional method. Rin was to only transform her lower half using a method of shedding to implant the embryo within her. Normally, this wouldn't be believed, but Rin, desperate due to her illness, insisted on trying it. However, during her transformation, these hybrids, eager for a pure mermaid child, implanted the embryo into another hybrid's body. Now, they were in trouble. Pure mermaid babies are not like ordinary test tube babies. Mermaid babies are incompatible in a human womb. The fetus grows faster than expected, rapidly depleting the mother's energy. The mother might not be able to survive. On the other side, Ben saw his father sitting outside early in the morning, brooding over a drink. As he approached to greet him, he learned that ever since his father saw the video of mermaids sabotaging the drill column in a deep-sea drilling accident, he hadn't been able to move on. Many years ago, Ben's mother had fallen into the water and his father had been attacked by Rin while trying to save her. Ben wanted to say something, but to ensure Rin's safety, he couldn't speak up. So he went to Helen's house to look for his lost phone. Helen wanted to talk to Ben about the strange gesture, but his attention was wholly fixed on the messages in his phone because he hadn't sent those messages to the commander. Realizing something was terribly wrong, he didn't even have time to speak to Helen before rushing to the address in the message. At the scene, there were only fragments of a uniform and a pool of blood. Turning to Rin, she understood that Tia had done this as revenge. Ben wondered if Tia had come here solely for revenge. Rin said no, their tribe had always been divided, with each mermaid faction keeping a great distance from the others. They never ventured into the territories of other factions, and many wars had started because of this. Rin had heard about these wars all her life, but had no idea how big the world was or how many mermaids there were. Curious, Ben asked how many mermaids there were. Rin said there were too many to count, but as ocean pollution worsened and food became scarcer, the number of mermaids was decreasing. They were having trouble conceiving babies, and Tia wanted to unite all the mermaid factions to resist humans and protect the marine ecosystem. Maddie said they would do their best to help on land. Ben asked if she had told Tia this. Tia didn't trust humans, and although Rin didn't trust Tia either, as a fellow mermaid, she supported Tia's cause. If nothing was done, more mermaids would die. Turning to Helen, she had come to the library to look for books about mermaids. But there, she encountered Ben's father, who was also researching information about the mermaid tribe. The sea accident from years ago still haunted his mind, and he wanted to confirm what kind of creature had attacked him in the past. Recalling the area of the accident, he checked the coordinates against the map, and to their surprise, he found that the location was where his great-great-grandfather's ship had sunk after an encounter. At that time, they had lost half of their crew. Helen handed Ben's father a book that recorded a great massacre of mermaids carried out by his great-great-grandfather in that bay. On the other side, influenced by the disappearance of Nicole, Xander was no longer living aimlessly. He strove time and again to pass the police officer examination, hoping that one day he could wear the badge on his chest and have the power to protect those he loved. While Xander was in the midst of a 5-kilometer physical training, he saw the wrathful Katrina and immediately sensed trouble. The presence of this anti-human chick meant that mischief was afoot, so he quickly called Ben to inform him. At the moment, Ben was frantically searching for his father. After Rin found Tia, she confronted her about why she had killed the commander, explaining how it negatively impacted her human friends. Tia mocked Rin's naivety, saying humans were not her friends, that they had destroyed the earth and reveled in killing. She mentioned that the commander had tortured her own sister, and therefore he deserved to die. Soon after, Rin took Tia to the Marine Research Institute's warehouse, intending to temporarily settle her there. When Katrina arrived and was ready to fight upon seeing Tia, Rin hurriedly explained that Tia was from her tribe. Tia found it strange that Katrina's eyes were the same color as hers and wondered why she was from Rin's group. It turned out that Katrina had gotten separated from her original tribe as a child and was adopted by Rin's group. Rin asked Katrina why she was there, and Katrina told her that a plane had crashed near their territory and all the humans inside had died. She had come ashore following an outsider mermaid, while her people were still searching for her accomplice in the waters. Rin assured her not to worry, as Tia, like her sister, had been captured by humans. The cunning Tia quickly recognized Katrina's ambition, and seizing the opportunity when Rin went to get food, she instigated the always rebellious Katrina, persuading her to reclaim leadership and unite her people with Tia's fight, believing power dictates everything. This made Katrina hesitate. Meanwhile, Helen informed Ben that his father was in pursuit of the true story of the mermaids. Ben hurried to the port, but his father had already left by boat. Concerned for his father's safety, he called Xander to help him chase after his father by sea. On the other side, out of the bond they shared growing up, Katrina confided in Rin about Tia's true intentions. Tia planned to unite the tribes to eliminate all humans. Rin only knew of Tia's hatred for humans, but she had not realized the extent of Tia's vengeful heart. Katrina warned that if Tia was not stopped, there would be endless trouble. Just as Tia was about to return to the deep sea, Rin, unwilling to witness war and bloodshed, tried her best to persuade her. However, Tia's hatred for humans, fueled by years of suffering at their hands, was too profound. She was well aware of human greed and wanted to put an end to all humans once and for all, warning Rin that anyone who tried to stop her would be killed. With those words, Tia turned and jumped into the water, swiftly swimming away. Rin knew she had to stop Tia to prevent a war between mermaids and humans, and she too dove into the sea to give chase. At this moment, Ben's father, braving the storm, had come alone to the place of legend where mermaids were said to appear. He was determined to confirm the truth because Helen had told him that in 1864, her great-great-grandfather and his crew went out to sea during a terrible storm. Their boat started taking on water, and it was here that he first laid eyes on a mermaid. They fell in love, and when their child was born, the baby was deformed due to its mixed heritage. The great-great-grandfather took the child to the Haida tribe to try to save him, and also to hide his existence. After separating from her child, the mermaid mother went mad, returned to the water, and never came back. Influenced by the mermaid's song, the great-great-grandfather lost his mind, trapped the mermaids in the bay, and then killed them one by one. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind came, loosening the sails and knocking Ben's father into the sea. A fierce mermaid charged at Ben's father, terrifying him into a panic. Fortunately, Ben arrived just in time to pull his father to safety. Rin rushed out to intercept Tia, while Ben successfully rescued his father. Meanwhile, underwater, two mermaids were locked in combat. Tia pushed Rin away with a slap, then quickly turned and lashed out with her tail, inflicting a flurry of blows on Rin. Seeing that Rin had no chance to fight back, Tia gave her another fierce slap, followed by a vicious bite on Rin's shoulder. Struggling, Rin grabbed a stick and struck back, seizing the chance to escape. Tia relentlessly pursued her. Tia's combat strength was too much for Rin. She was completely outmatched. Just then, Katrina arrived with her tribe and surrounded Tia. Katrina immediately stepped in front of Rin to protect her from further injury. Outnumbered, Tia reluctantly swam away. The tribe members then worked together to bring the severely injured Rin to shore for treatment, saving her life. At this time, Helen couldn't stop thinking about the warning that her mermaid lover had left her. She asked the blonde mermaid about the meaning of the hand gesture that her mermaid lover's spirit had made when it came to her. Upon seeing the gesture, the blonde mermaid was visibly shocked and said that it signified that war was coming. Rin had previously recovered from an injury overnight. However, this time her recovery was unusually slow. Yet, with the impending war launched by Tia, she had to make the necessary preparations. So, she sent Katrina back to the sea to monitor Tia's movements while the other mermaids stayed on land to help heal her and to train themselves to increase their combat abilities. Ben was visiting his mother for physical therapy, but his father called him out for a talk. At this time, the physiotherapist left to fetch a resistance band, leaving his mother alone in the swimming pool. Attempting to stand on her own, she unfastened the safety buckle but didn't anticipate the buoyancy of the water, which caused her to slip under. Unaware of the situation, Ben and his father were deep in conversation, with his father prejudicedly blaming the injection of mermaid stem cells into his mother, treating her like a lab rat. As the argument escalated, Ben noticed his submerged mother and quickly dived in to rescue her. Surprisingly, she seemed very calm, as if nothing had happened. They performed a lung capacity test on her and discovered that she now had an exceptionally large lung capacity, comparable to an Olympic swimmer. Delighted by this remarkable recovery, she eagerly asked Ben when she could get her next injection. However, the project had been halted by the military after the commander in charge was killed by Tia, and Ben, not wanting to disappoint his mother, claimed he would find a way. Elsewhere, the host's condition was worsening. The human body temperature was too high for the mermaid baby, and she could only lower her temperature with ice baths for a maximum of half an hour. The doctor suggested taking her to the lab for treatment, but the selfish man refused, fearing that other admirers would discover and take the mermaid baby away. The uncomfortable environment for the host caused the mermaid baby to become restless in the womb, and Rin also felt it. Having never been a mother, she thought it was internal damage from fighting. However, their unique physiology meant they couldn't go to a hospital. Just then, Maddie remembered there were doctors among the pseudo-mermaids, and coincidentally they met one returning to the lab for medicine. Startled by the situation, Maddie informed the doctor that Rin was injured and asked her to examine Rin. Reluctant to turn them away but wanting to get rid of them, the doctor performed an ultrasound on Rin but found no internal injuries. When Rin suddenly started having contractions, the doctor discovered her uterus contracting but found no signs of pregnancy. Guessing what might be happening, the doctor gave her medication to ease the contractions, used for pregnant women. The doctor felt guilty for depriving Rin of motherhood, confessing that she had stolen Rin's embryo and implanted it into a mixed-race mermaid woman. Not long after, Tia returned to the tribe and challenged the leader. She had improved their weapons with mechanisms learned from humans and easily defeated the leader to take control, executing any mermaid who defied her. When Rin learned that her baby had been stolen and was still alive, she was desperate to rescue her baby. However, the doctor, fearing retaliation from the other pseudo-mermaids, dared not reveal the baby's location. Taking advantage of Maddie being on the phone, Rin, with the help of Wanda, secretly followed the doctor to their hideout. They saw a man leave the cabin and quickly hid behind a tree before sneaking in from the back. Rin finally found her baby, and when it started moving restlessly in her womb, her soothing touch immediately calmed it down. Truly a mother's connection. At that moment, Maddie arrived with Xander just as the amniotic sac broke, and the baby was about to be born. They then moved the host to the doctor's lab to prepare for the delivery. As they were still worrying about whether the newborn merbaby would have fins or human legs, the merbaby was born smoothly. The merbaby is very quiet. They are naturally silent since crying can attract predators. After giving birth to the merbaby, the mother closed her eyes forever. Having birthed a purebred mermaid, her mission was gloriously fulfilled. Rin gave her a dignified burial according to mermaid customs. In an attempt to cure his mother's disability, Ben had dug up the body of a mermaid that had died after being affected by a sonar cannon, which had only partially transformed. He sneaked the body back into the freezer at the Marine Research Center's old warehouse. Planning to extract spinal fluid from the mermaid's body to derive stem cells, Ben decided to inject himself with the same dose as his mother to ensure that the stem cells he refined were safe. Not long after testing, Ben was surprised to find that the deep, bone-visible wound on his hand had completely healed. The next day, he was awoken from his sleep by a sharp, piercing noise. When he went out to investigate, he discovered it was just a mouse nibbling on food. His hearing had become so sensitive that he found it unbelievable. Meanwhile, while Rin was still immersed in the world of being a new mother, she noticed the baby's heartbeat beginning to weaken. Upon unwrapping the baby, she saw its body was deteriorating from dehydration. They needed to get back into the water immediately. There was a risk of being discovered by Tia if they went into the water now, but they had no other choice. Rin walked into the sea with the baby in her arms. They were concerned about the baby's first time in the water, whether she could withstand the pain of the transformation given her fragile state. Ben and Maddie watched as the mother and child gradually submerged. Rin cradled the baby through her first transformation in the remaining years of her life. In the end, the baby successfully transformed. Meanwhile, Tia led the tribe to other marine territories to rally other tribes to join her cause. She executed those mermaids who did not align with her. At this time, Tia was still expanding into other marine territories, and her forces grew stronger day by day. Maddie and Helen came to see the baby, but Rin had placed the baby to sleep under the bed. Maddie was concerned about the baby's safety, but Rin said that in the sea they would sleep in caves. She liked it that way. Maddie had prepared all sorts of baby supplies for the little one. Rin was trying hard to learn how to be a human mother. Ben and Maddie were blending fish into a smoothie for the baby to eat. Maddie accidentally knocked over the milk bottle, but Ben caught it quickly, surprising even himself. Clearly, the mermaid's stem cells had enhanced his reflexes. Then Rin came over, saw the food on the table, and poured the fish smoothie directly into her mouth, preparing to feed the baby. Maddie quickly stopped her, explaining that on land, babies drink from bottles themselves. So Rin took the baby and tried to do the same. However, this little one had quite the appetite and quickly finished a bottle. Maddie took Rin to the library to find some books on newborn care, but they ended up joining a new moms group instead. While the other mothers expressed hopes for their children's happy growth, Rin's wish was more primal, that her baby would simply survive and learn to swim and hunt. The other moms looked at Rin in shock. Maddie quickly intervened, explaining that Rin lived on a farm. The group leader mentioned that there are many ways to raise a child, and one approach is called attachment parenting, where one mother believed that a baby should never leave the mother's arms, a view that the leader agreed with. But Rin countered, asking how a baby would learn to fight if never let go. Amidst this discussion, a baby started crying. Rin inquired about the issue, to which a woman replied by asking if Rin's baby never cries. Rin said that in her world, a crying baby would be eaten, and this frightened all the other mothers. They probably thought she was from an asylum. Maddie quickly ushered Rin away. When they got home, they found Levi and a muscular mermaid waiting to take the baby away. It turns out that male merfolk trigger the secretion of a different hormone in juveniles that affects their growth and development. The male merfolk also become the baby's mentors, teaching them combat skills and survival techniques in the water, which is their duty. Rin was sent away by her mother as a child and didn't see her again until she was grown. However, her human maternal instincts made it hard for her to let go of her baby. She hoped to live on land with her child as humans do. It was a beautiful wish, but they were ultimately merfolk, and if the baby didn't return to the water, she would never adapt to aquatic life. This child was the only new life born to the merfolk in many years and represented the hope of the tribe. At that moment, the usually quiet baby began to cry, sensing the sadness of impending separation from her mother. Ultimately, Rin decided to send the baby back to the sea. Rin named the baby Hope. Meanwhile, Tia, leading a large force, was already attacking Rin's tribe. Katrina prepared her people for battle, but they were no match for Tia's forces and were quickly surrounded. Tia confronted Katrina, demanding she choose sides, join her or die. Katrina hesitated. She and Tia were originally from the same tribe, and she had always looked down on humans and resented Rin for getting too close to them. Turning to look at the merfolk she grew up with, Katrina eventually chose to side with her own kind, Tia. Everyone was shocked by her betrayal. Her body shook and her scales changed to match Tia's. At the moment, Maddie was meeting with a young man known. He expressed his desire to rent a space at the Marine Research Center to conduct experiments on a project utilizing natural water currents to remove plastic from the ocean. Consequently, Maddie took him to check out a potential site at an abandoned warehouse. As they entered, the man detected a putrid smell and followed it to discover a large freezer hidden away. At this time, Maddie was still in the dark about the mermaid body that had been secreted there. When they opened the freezer, they were shocked. Maddie quickly fabricated a lie, claiming she and Ben had found the body washed ashore and were unable to determine the species of the aquatic creature. They had been doing tests to gather more information and did not want to disclose it until they had identified the species. It was unexpected for them that Ben had moved it here, leaving them startled. The man was obviously skeptical. Meanwhile, Ben was soundly asleep like a pig, holding Rin without... Suddenly, Rin was startled awake. Wanda rushed to find Rin, informing her that Tia had taken over the tribe, and Katrina had joined her ranks. Some merfolk had fled, but others who had tried to resist were all killed. Tia had sent Wanda with a message for Rin, asking her to choose either to submit or die. At dawn, Rin bid farewell to Ben and returned to the sea with Wanda to rescue her fellow tribespeople. Ben felt utterly helpless at that moment, yearning to become stronger immediately. He placed his hopes on mermaid stem cells and recklessly increased his injection dosage. Upon Rin's return to her tribe, she found her fellow tribespeople had been slaughtered by Tia. She buried them one by one. Then, another tribe member was killed overhead. They cautiously investigated, following the trail to find the escaped tribespeople on shore. The blonde mermaid revealed that Katrina had betrayed them by leading Tia to their hiding place, and now the entire water realm was under Tia's control. Rin planned to swim back first, find a boat, and then return to take them to town for medical treatment. Just as the merfolk had donned the clothes they brought, a spear flew through the air, impaling the chest of one of them. More wooden spears followed, prompting them to duck for cover. Rin instructed everyone to quickly escape while she covered their retreat. It was the cursed Katrina who had led her followers in pursuit. Katrina, not finding them upon arrival, knew they couldn't have gone far. She picked up the clothes they had left behind and signaled her subordinates to put them on. At this time, Ben and his group were hiding behind nearby trees, with Katrina and 6 other merfolk blocking their path back to the boat. Ben told Xander to stay there with the merfolk while he and Rin led their pursuers away. Katrina identified their targets and ordered their execution. Rin quickly neutralized one. Once the coast was clear, Xander herded the mermaids toward the boat. Unexpectedly, they were ambushed by a male mermaid who overpowered Xander and sent one of the mermaid girls flying with a single blow. Wanda stepped in only to be swiftly taken down. She retaliated with a slap and leaped onto the back of the male mermaid, attempting to throttle him, but his superior strength sent her tumbling to the ground. Just as the male mermaid was about to strike Wanda with his wooden spear, Xander shot him, saving Wanda in the nick of time. Xander, who had previously killed Wanda's mother by accident, had now balanced the scales. During the fight, Ben's abilities were activated, greatly enhancing his strength and allowing him to hurl his opponent away. He spun around, spear in hand, and finished off his adversary. As Xander and the others made for the ship, they realized one injured mermaid was left behind. At that moment, Katrina was standing over the lagging mermaid, about to execute her when Rin intervened, accusing Katrina of betrayal and reminding her that it was their tribe who had taken her in. Katrina argued that Rin was too weak to lead. In the ensuing fight, she mercilessly killed the companion she had grown up with. The death of a fellow tribesperson enraged Rin, who quickly overpowered Katrina. However, she could not bring herself to deliver a fatal blow to someone she grew up with. She told Katrina that she could come back and offered help, but even in defeat, Katrina refused to follow Rin, who had a heart for humans, and chose to end her own life instead. To prevent more merfolk from pursuing them, they did not have time to deal with the bodies and hurriedly sailed back to town. Tia and her people were quick to follow. While they were dealing with the bodies, the mermaid, who was not yet dead, regained consciousness. Tia offered her a chance to live if she joined them, but the distrustful Tia was not one to easily trust someone. To save her life, the mermaid revealed to Tia that Rin had given birth to a baby, which was now being looked after by the male mermaids. After returning home, Ben and Rin ran into the young man, Rob, who had just bought coffee. Rin immediately recognized that Rob was a merman from another tribe. It was wartime, and he could not be trusted. It turned out that Rob was from a distant Alaskan mer tribe from the northern shores. He had come to the human world alone in search of a way to counteract ocean pollution and to save his people. It was said that his tribe consisted of fierce warriors, so no one dared to approach them. Ben thought of aligning with his tribe, especially now that Tia controlled all the tribes in the waters. If she were to use the merfolk's siren songs to wage war against humans on a large scale, the consequences would be unimaginable. But Rob, having had a falling out with his tribe and being considered insignificant, could only join them to convey the severity of the situation. So, he contacted an investor in a sea-cleaning project who lent them a twin-engine private plane. When they arrived, they saw the frozen surface of the water. Ben said they needed to find another place for him to dive in and send the message. However, Rob explained that after several years on land, he was permanently stuck in human form and couldn't transform even in the water. This information gave Rin pause. Rob led Ben to a small cabin in the middle of the water. Once inside, he sat down, took out a prepared rainbow trout, and placed it into an iron basket. This was his tribe's way of contacting the locals. He then lowered the basket down with a rope and returned to the shore to wait for a response. Soon, a claw emerged from the hole, and 3 merpeople in human form stepped out of the cabin. The one in the middle was the leader, Yura. They slowly approached Rob and his company. As soon as Yura caught sight of Rin, she looked ready to fight. Rin gestured for peace, and the leader agreed. Without wasting words, Rin got straight to the point. Another tribe had already started a full-scale war underwater. She had killed many of their people. She wouldn't stop the war until all tribes submitted to her. All resisting merfolk were executed. She told her their purpose here is to warn her and seek her help. However, Yura refused to get involved in any disputes, coldly rejecting them and chastising Rob for not continuing the lineage and leaving them to die. It seemed they also faced serious problems. In their tribe, all members were naturally female. During the breeding season, they would select the most suitable individual to transform from female to male through the water in a pool. But now the water was polluted, preventing them from changing sex. The only male in their tribe, Rob, could no longer transform back into a mermaid to reproduce. Without the water from this pool, they could only await extinction. Before leaving, Yura said they would not become comrades in arms. So, Rin and her group decided to settle down in an inn in town and think of a strategy. Rin was already feeling the changes in her own body. Thus, Ben revealed to Rin the story about replacing his mother's reagent, and from then on, there were no more secrets between them. Maddie was inspired during her chat with Rob. She quickly ran out to knock on the door of Rin, who lived next door. Maddie might have figured out what was preventing Yura from changing gender. They arrived at the poolside, where Maddie noticed a pile of plastic foam on the stones. It indicated that the pool water contained a high concentration of microplastics. These plastic components were the ones preventing the merfolk from changing genders, and were also the reason the merfolk couldn't conceive. Plastics contain a dangerous compound called bisphenol A. Over time, the plastics in the water release a chemical similar to estrogen. If there's a high concentration of estrogen in the water, it could lead to an inability to change gender. Ben suggested that if they helped restore the pool to its natural state and the merfolk could change from female to male again, would they be willing to fight for them? After a moment of thought, Yura finally agreed. A male mermaid then climbed out of the pool. As he came ashore, his body began to painfully transform. In front of his tribe, he shed his tail and took on human form. It turned out that Ben had already figured out a solution to the plastic particles in the water. Ben explained that water is polar and oil is nonpolar. If oil is poured into the water, all nonpolar substances, such as plastics, would stick to the oil. Magnetite is the most magnetic substance on Earth. By pouring it into the oil, they could use magnets to remove the microplastics from the water. Maddie asked Ben where they could find so many magnets. Rob made full use of his excellent social networking skills. Over the years on land, he had accumulated many contacts and resources. He quickly procured the materials they needed. They poured these substances into the pool and then waited. Following tradition, Yura prepared for the transformation ceremony to become a male mermaid. She took off her clothes and walked into the pool. Soon, the male Yura emerged from the water, proving their method was effective. Having come this far together, Maddie officially accepted Rob. Rin was still worried that if she stayed on land too long, one day she might not be able to change back into a mermaid. Ben said it didn't matter. If Rin couldn't live on land, then he would go find her underwater. As long as he continued the stem cell injections, it might not be long before he could live underwater too. So Rin took Ben to the sea to test the effects of the injections. Yura, having successfully transformed into a male, expressed his sincere gratitude and, honoring his promise, joined Rin's cause. Meanwhile, Tia arrived at the origin of the merfolk with a bomb in hand. It was here that Ben and Maddie had once cured the brain damage caused by the merfolk's song. She set up the bomb around the perimeter, destroying the merfolk's ancestral ground that belonged to Rin and her people. Upon their return, Ben and his group planned to enlist the military's help to confront Tia. However, they were always one step behind. The military informed them that just a short while ago, a Russian operative had stealthily entered the area and deleted the recordings Ben had taken from the site. This confirmed their suspicions that Tia was planning to use the Mermaid song to influence human brains. But the military brushed off the matter and left, indicating they couldn't rely on military support. So, Ben thought of the sonic cannon they used for the oil project, planning to block Tia's approach to the coast using the sonic weapon. They went to the drilling site to recover the sonic cannon equipment. At that moment, the radar showed someone was quickly approaching their location. Ben feared it was Tia's guard, putting the underwater Rin in danger. Grabbing a harpoon gun, he dove into the water. Underwater, he turned on his flashlight and saw a figure swimming towards him. Ready to attack, he raised his harpoon gun, but it turned out to be only a sea lion. After a false alarm, he put away the harpoon gun and swam towards Rin. Maddie, anxious and unaware of the underwater situation, suddenly noticed an oxygen tank left behind. She realized that Ben had dived in without an oxygen tank, thinking that he might have forgotten it in his rush to save Rin. However, the sonic cannon equipment was too large and heavy for Rin to move on his own. Fortunately, Ben arrived, and together they managed to shift the equipment. Seeing Ben return safely, Maddie urgently asked him how he managed to stay underwater for nearly 15 minutes without an oxygen tank. Just as Ben was about to explain, he realized he couldn't breathe. He reached out his hand in shock to find that his palms had developed pores. Unable to breathe, he collapsed on the deck. Maddie immediately turned him over and unzipped his wetsuit. Upon opening his clothes, she discovered he had grown gills, which made her step back in fright. Elsewhere, a woman was preparing to leave work when suddenly the office broadcast began to play a Mermaids song. Men's ears began to bleed, and everyone who heard the song fell to the ground. Tia, frustrated at not being able to defeat Yura's tribe, took out her anger on her minion. Suddenly, she saw a news broadcast about an attack using sonic waves, and she realized it's her own song. It turned out the Russians had turned her song into a weapon. This meant she no longer needed to poke the hornet's nest that was Yura. After 10 years of training with the Russians, she knew them inside out and quickly contacted the officer who had previously helped her escape. Judging from the man's eyes, it's clear that he was under the spell of Tia's song and had no defenses against her. Tia wrapped a scarf around the man's neck and pulled it tight, strangling him. In his incredulous gaze, she used the ribbon in her hand to throttle him mercilessly. Tia then opened the man's computer and, as expected, found her Siren song weaponized in the database. On the other side, Xander's friend's wedding was taking place. To prevent any disturbances, all the guests were asked to switch off their cell phones. However, Xander sneakily kept his phone on vibrate mode. Little did he know he would pay a hefty price for this act. As everyone was lost in a frenetic dance, Xander's phone rang. Curious, he pulled it out to see a call from an unknown number. The moment he answered, a strange sound came from the other end. Confused, he felt dizzy and experienced intense pain before collapsing to the ground and passing out. Ben and Maddie rushed him to the hospital for emergency treatment. Xander was in bad shape. The doctor couldn't diagnose the illness. A brain CT scan revealed signs of brain failure, with the damage appearing to be severe. Ben recalled that Xander had collapsed right after taking the call. Maddie immediately checked Xander's phone, and at the same time, Ben also received a call from the same number. Maddie checked her own phone, and sure enough, she too had a missed call at the same time. It wasn't hard to figure out that it's Tia who had launched a sonic attack on them. Now, the only recording of the origin site that the military had was deleted by Tia. They were left with no way to save Xander. The scene shifts to the little mermaid, Hope, searching for prey accompanied by two male merfolk. Suddenly, a giant eel, also in search of food, appeared in front of them. Seeing that the prey was too formidable, Levi was about to step forward to protect Hope, but was stopped by a burly one. It was time to test the little mermaid. Hope swam towards the giant eel and struck it with her spear. After a few stabs, the battle was over. At that moment, Rin sensed that her baby had come ashore. She went to the beach they often landed on and saw the baby, who was once in swaddling clothes, had grown into a cute little girl. The growth rate of merfolk was astonishing. It was Hope's first encounter with her mother. Although she didn't know what her mother looked like, there was a special bond between the mermaid mother and daughter. She could feel that this was the mother she had never met before. The burly mermaid said that they had seen many of their tribe's bodies in the water. It was no longer safe. Therefore, they had Hope complete her hunting task early and brought her ashore. Ben thought perhaps Levi could help by recording the song at the origin site to save Xander. To their dismay, Levi informed them that the origin site had been destroyed. They were now in despair. They decided to settle Hope in Helen's house for the time being. Hope, seeing an animal she had never seen before, ran over to observe it. Perhaps getting too close, the dog felt embarrassed and barked at her a few times until Rin quickly intervened. Upon arriving at Helen's general store, Hope was filled with curiosity about everything. However, no one had taught her what she should or shouldn't do. During this time, Rin detected the presence of a mermaid. It was Tia's minion mermaid who had been following Hope. Rin had witnessed her being killed by Katrina and didn't expect her to be alive, so she welcomed her return. Tia didn't stop there. She proceeded to the communications center, claiming to be an administrator. The staff member insisted on checking her ID and stood up to stop her. Unexpectedly, she stabbed him in the artery, ending his life. Tia took his ID, made sure nobody saw her, and swiped her way into the building. She was ready to implement her plan on a large scale. Using her hacking skills, Tia embedded a sonic attack into the communications system. After pressing the confirm button, mysterious calls reached coastal cities everywhere, and everyone who answered the phones fell, one by one. The hospital was in disarray, with people collapsing everywhere after receiving strange calls. Maddie warned everyone not to answer their phones and quickly called Ben to discuss how to halt the communications. Ben thought of his father's contacts, including an executive at the communications company. When Rin heard this, she also wanted to help. It was her responsibility to oppose Tia for Hope's sake. That's when the minion mermaid stepped forward, promising to protect Hope. Unaware of her betrayal, they entrusted Hope to her. Feeling her mother's anxiety, Hope realized the danger her mother was going into and called out, "Mom!" reinforcing Rin's determination to confront Tia and protect her daughter. Ben took Rin to the harbor to find his father, informing him that everyone in town who had answered the phone had collapsed. They needed to call the communications company to shut down the service, but ever since his father learned the truth about mermaids, he had been unwell. In his mind, mermaids were a vicious race, and due to his prejudice, he was unwilling to help. Ben argued with his obstinate father, at one point grabbing his collar in desperation. His father pushed him away, and Ben collided with a container filled with sea fish. After his hand was soaked in seawater, it mutated. His father looked at him as if he were a monster. It seemed they had to rely on themselves. Ben floored the gas pedal and charged ahead. Just before the collision, he opened the car door and jumped out. The car smashed into the generator, destroying all the power facilities, and the entire town was immediately plunged into darkness. Just when everyone thought they could catch their breath, Helen discovered that the minion mermaid had taken Hope. Helen confronted the minion mermaid, who revealed that Tia wanted Hope. Despite Helen's skilled capture technique, the minion mermaid was too strong for her and easily broke free, pushing Helen to the ground. Helen could only watch helplessly as Hope was taken away. Rushing to the hospital, Helen informed Rin that Hope had been abducted. At that moment, the military arrived and informed them that several cities had been subjected to similar attacks and needed their help. Rin agreed to the military's request in the hopes of rescuing her daughter. Meanwhile, Tia was admiring her own handiwork as the minion mermaid presented Hope to her. Tia began to brainwash Hope, saying she was so close to having a child like her. When humans captured her, she was pregnant and nearly due to give birth. They were rough with her, causing her to miscarry. Just when Tia thought she had won Hope over, the little mermaid kicked her and turned to run away. Tia said to Hope that when her plan is complete, she'll need a new mother. On the other side, Maddie was frantic over her father's disappearance. The appearance of the pretty boy brought her some comfort, along with recordings from their tribe's echo chamber. Unsure if it would work, they had no choice but to try it. Fortunately, the songs of different species could also heal the effects of the Siren song on the human brain. Xander awoke in anticipation, tearing the tubes from his body. They planned to copy the recording and send it to everyone. Having just recovered, Xander went out to search for the injured and found Maddie's father collapsed by the roadside. Maddie rushed over to find her father lying there covered with a cloth, heartbroken. Elsewhere, the news department received a mysterious USB drive that, to their surprise, contained Tia's warning video to humanity. She sent her declarations to different countries, each in the local language. In every declaration, she implied that foreign powers were involved in the attacks, clearly aiming to incite a war between human nations, then watch as humanity destroyed itself. Soldiers reported that their security engineers had breached the firewall, found the target, and narrowed the search to within 50 miles. They didn't have much time to go door to door, so they considered using thermal imaging to search for mermaids, who have a lower body temperature. In that way, they quickly locked on to Tia's coordinates. They arrived at an abandoned factory where a group of armed soldiers quickly deployed. Rin watched the monitor and saw only one person inside the building. Worried about her daughter, she hurried in but discovered the minion mermaid who had betrayed them, bound and kneeling. Rin angrily approached her to demand where her daughter was taken. The minion mermaid promptly disclosed the location, obviously a deliberate ploy by Tia to set a trap for Rin. Still, determined to save her daughter, she resolved to face the trap. In the meantime, Rin's sister's spirit sought out Wanda to inform them that Rin needed help. Meanwhile, Xander's friend went to the port to search for casualties and was surprised to find a group of mermaids on his yacht. They asked him to take them out to sea with his boat to rescue Rin. Ben piloted the yacht to the designated location to escort Rin, who was tasked with distracting Tia while Ben took the opportunity to rescue Hope. Suddenly attacked by a mermaid, Ben defended himself with a spear gun and later retrieved the spear. As soon as he reached where Hope was imprisoned, a small hand stretched out from the window. Ben pried open the metal sheet and rescued Hope. Discovering guards still present as they prepared to leave, Ben instructed Hope to sneak back to the boat while he drew the guards' attention away. The clever Hope blinked understandingly. Ben swam over with his spear gun and, using his only arrow, hit the target and made a run for it, pursued immediately by two mermaids, who were obviously much faster than any human. Just as Rin was being chased, her people arrived. Levi stood in front of her while Wanda handed over a weapon. Just when they thought it could be a fair fight, Tia's forces caught up, and a mermaid civil war of disproportionate power was imminent. As Rin was stunned, more help arrived. It was Yura leading her tribe into battle for Rin. Outmatched, Tia gritted her teeth in frustration. After exchanging a knowing look with Yura, Rin gave the order to begin the battle. In the midst of a fierce battle, Rin gained the upper hand and managed to thrust her twin spears into Tia's chest, ending her sexy life. All mermaids ceased fighting and turned to look at Rin as Tia fell, her blood staining the sea red. Rin became the new leader, and all the mermaids pledged their allegiance to her. The scene shifts to Hope waiting alone on the boat when suddenly Rin jumped aboard. She asked Hope where Ben was, but Hope just shook her head, and Ben never returned. 2 weeks passed with no word from Ben. Xander passed his police exam and proudly pinned the badge on his chest, committed to protecting everyone he loved. Maddie had to leave the place filled with memories of her father, which stirred deep emotions within her. She left with Rob to fulfill their mission of cleaning the oceans. Ben once shared a dream where he, Rin, and Hope lived together as a happy family of 3. Rin firmly believed Ben was still alive and was determined to find him, no matter where he was. The 3rd season ends with Rin's longing. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.